Hi, I'm Pat and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to change the brake fluid in the BMW i8. BMW requires that the i8 has a brake fluid change after the first 3 years since it was produced and every 2 years thereafter. My BMW i8 is 5 years old, so it's due for its change. I recently got an indication on the service panel indicating that service was due. I also received a complimentary call from my BMW dealer saying, "Your car's letting us know that service is due." BMW requires that we get DOT4 low viscosity brake fluid in this car. It's factory filled with low viscosity, so we're going to do the same thing. There'll be a link in the description for this brake fluid. Also, I picked up this Motive Products power bleeder along with the appropriate adapter to connect it to the BMW i8. And when we hop in the i8 here and we turn it on, we'll see the indication that service is due right there. The car's yellow and it says the service is due April 2020, and it is April. And if we click on the menu button within the iDrive and come down to Vehicle Info, Vehicle Status, we could come down to Required Service, or Service Required, and also see that the brake fluid is due, and it's showing on the vehicle a graphical representation of those yellow areas where the wheels are at. Now before I start this job, I'm going to make sure that my parking brake is disengaged. So I'm going to turn the vehicle on, and I'm going to press down on the parking brake. Then I can go ahead and turn the vehicle back off. This is because I'm unsure whether or not having any type of fluid compressed in the parking brake is going to affect the bleed job. Now that it's disengaged, I'm good to go. So now that the parking brake is disengaged, I can go ahead and lift the vehicle as well as open the front hood. Now I have links in the description below so I don't have to go through the same process again. So definitely check out my link for the quick jack and my link for safely opening and closing the hood on the BMW i8. If you need to make your life a whole lot easier, we have one of these pilot studs. This allows me to take the wheel off without the wheel falling off when I pull the last bolt, and also have some of these special sockets that prevent me from marring up the wheel because they're covered in nylon. There's a link in the description below for both of these if you're interested. Now that all the wheels are off, I can go ahead and cover up this side of the vehicle so that I don't touch it or I don't spill anything on it. And I'm going to go ahead and check the depth of the fluid in the reservoir. So I'm going to go ahead and shine a light into the reservoir, and then I could see the fluid level even better. Here we could see the line. It's right here, and it's actually between the minimum and the maximum. So this is pretty full of fluid right now, which means I'm going to have to draw it down. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the surface as best I can, because I don't want to get any type of dirt or contamination inside the brake system. So I have a paper towel here, and on the paper towel I have some isopropyl alcohol. And I'm going to try to do whatever I can to keep dirt from getting down in there, which means cleaning the cap and cleaning around the reservoir. Okay, our brake reservoir cap doesn't have anything on the top of it. Sometimes they have some type of a rubber type device in them depending on the vehicle. The i8 doesn't have that. What we have here is a filter that sits just inside the brake reservoir, and I'm just going to put my fingers on the inside of it and turn it until I feel that it can come up. There we go. And we could see here there are little divots that hook underneath here. Right. So I just continued to spin this as I stuck my fingers in here and tried to pull up, and I eventually got this out. One thing to be concerned about is that brake fluid is damaging to not only you, but your vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and lay some rags down around the reservoir in case any fluid ends up getting where it doesn't belong. And if it does get there, I want to clean it up as quickly as possible. And that means wipe it up and even use a damp paper towel even to try to get whatever area was touched by this fluid clean, especially the paint. This is very caustic and it will eat through your paint. Next, I'm going to use this thing called the Mighty Vac. The way this works is you pull on this and it sucks fluid into the chamber. There's a small tube here at the end, so I can place this inside the reservoir, and I also have a little bottle here to catch any type of fluid so that we remove as much of the fluid here, the old fluid, as possible before we put new fluid in there. So I have my container ready in case I need it, and I have my Mighty Vac ready. I'm going to insert this down into the reservoir. I don't want to push it too hard because there's sensors down there, but I do want to find an area where it'll get down pretty close to the bottom of the reservoir, and then I can go ahead and extract the fluid out. And now I can use my bottle in order to catch any fluid that's running out of the bottom of the Mighty Vac and take this away. Next, we want to fill our bottle up with the new fluid, the Dot 4 low viscosity, until we get up to the max line. Next, we'll take our power bleeder adapter for this vehicle, and it comes with a rubber insert. So I'm just going to place this inside of this cap, and this makes sure that there's a good seal with the unit so that we can pump it up. So it looks like that. I'll go ahead and install it on top of the reservoir. Now, BMW recommends that we do not exceed 2 bar, and 2 bar is at the max deflection here, so I'm going to have to connect this to this. But the manufacturer indicated that it's preferable that I go ahead and put some Teflon tape on this first, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. I cut a little bit of Teflon tape off the roll. I'm going to go ahead and apply the Teflon tape to the threads, going in the same direction that I would normally be going if I was tightening. This ensures that we have a good seal. Next, I can go ahead and connect the power bleeder to the adapter. And now I'm just going to make sure it's tight with a quick flick of the wrench. And now we could see, here's our gauge. It goes up to 2 bar. I'm going to go ahead and pump this up and see how well it holds pressure. I got to push down and turn in order to work the plunger. Got it up to about 1.5 bar, but I can hear some hissing. And it's here at the cap. So let me just make sure it's extra tight. No more hissing. Cool. Now I could keep pumping. There we go. Now it's holding pressure. Our next step is to start back here in the right rear, the furthest away from the reservoir. And we'll see right here is where our bleeder screw is at. So there's a little dust cover here. If we take that dust cover off, it exposes what we need to connect our 11mm wrench to. But first, let's get our bottle in order to collect the fluid that's going to come out of the system. I went out and bought a brake bleeder bottle and hose. This has a cool feature. It has a little magnet on the back, so I can put this right onto the rotor and it's not going anywhere. Then I can put the hose onto the bleeder. However, first I want to use my 11mm wrench, so I'm going to get this 11mm wrench on here first. So let me go ahead and put the hose on the end of the bleeder as far as it'll go. There we go. Yeah, in fact, we can even move our wrench out of the way, so that's on as far as it'll go. And now I can loosen this, and fluid should come out. There it is. So I want to watch this fluid as it's coming out. It's discolored. It's a straw color. Definitely yellow, more yellow than the fluid that I put into the car. And I'm also noticing there's a few bubbles coming out as well. So I'm going to continue to leave this open, and I'm going to watch the fluid flow into the bottle. So now we can go ahead and close the system up. I'm going to go ahead and tighten the 11mm wrench until it feels snug, and then I can come back with a socket and verify its torque. So the next step, I want to make sure that I remove this tube and not get fluid everywhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and back the wrench off of here first. Put that down here. And I'm just going to slowly pull this off and keep a paper towel around it so it doesn't squirt everywhere. There we go. That worked pretty well. Now if I keep the tube high, I could drain the rest of the fluid into the bottle. I could take the wrench off of the tube and set the bottle aside. Just going to make sure this is clean, and it is. Then I could take my 11mm socket, and the torque setting is 10 Newton meters, or about 7 pounds-feet. And then I can go ahead and cover the bleeder screw to keep it protected against the elements, so the next time it needs to be bleeded, it'll be fresh and ready to go. So if we take a look here, we've gone down a little bit in pressure, not a whole lot, but we did take our fluid down to the minimum line. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to break the seal here at the top of the pressure tank, and then I can remove the adapter from the top of the reservoir, and I can fill this back up with fluid. So that'll be the next step. Brake fluid loves to absorb moisture. So it's always important to make sure we cap things off and don't let them sit out in the open. There we go. Our next step in the process is to do the left rear. Fortunately, it's the same as the right rear, so I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera, and when we're done, we're going to start heading to the front of the car. So I finished up the right front, and soon I'll do the left front, and we're looking at a great amount of pressure still here on this pressure bleeder, and our reservoir now is down to the minimum mark. It's hard to see, it's so clean, but it's down there. So I just topped off the fluid for one last time. I didn't put it all the way to the max, but I put it pretty close because I'm going to be draining it, and then it should go down about halfway, and I'll be happy with that. We'll go ahead and put the strainer back in, and that just snaps in place. Then we can get this pumped up and get this left front bled. So here we are at the left front. We're going to go ahead and bleed the outside first and then the inside per BMW's recommendations or requirements. So let's start with the outside. Go ahead and put our magnetic catch can onto the rotor. I love this. It makes life so much easier. And then go ahead and put our wrench on there and our hose. There we go. And we'll go lefty-loosey and loosen it up. Now these front calipers seem to be much tighter, the bleeder screws that is, than the back. And they are torqued a little bit more, so the front torque is 11 pounds-feet or 18 newton meters, whereas the back was 7 or 10 newton meters. But this is starting to look like it's pretty clear, so I'm going to go ahead and close it now, and then I can torque it. Now the secret to not spilling fluid everywhere is to try to keep this at the very top and let gravity pull it down. So just going to squeeze this and pull it off, let a little bit of air get into this tube, and let gravity do its job. There we go, we didn't spill anything anywhere. And now I have my torque wrench set to 11 pounds-feet. Yep. And just like the rear, it's the same exact size. It's 11 millimeters. So now we could do the same to the inside. So I want to make sure I have enough clearance here to swing my wrench to loosen this. That looks good. Let's move the camera over there as well. That way you can see a little bit better. And I'll just take the tube over the top. And then I can loosen it. There, that one didn't take that long. Not compared to the outside, because the only fluid that happens to be in this part of the caliper is right in here. So, let's make sure that's snug. We'll do the same trick here. We're just going to bend this down and then slip it off slowly. Let gravity pull the fluid down into the tube. There we go. No mess. So the reservoir was a little bit lower than I expected, so I went ahead and filled it up. It's up to about here right now, so it's definitely in between the minimum and maximum line, and that's where it was when I first started. The reason why I don't want to fill it up all the way is when I have to change the brakes on this, I want to have the ability to compress the brake caliper, and that fluid's going to come back into this reservoir. So I don't want to make it go all the way to the top. I'm happy where it's at now, and it's good for another 2 years. Well, that was a whole lot easier than I expected, but we're not done yet. We still have to shut the hood, and then we got to reset the system so it will no longer complain to us that we need to perform this service for the next 2 years. So, link in the description where you can see the proper procedure for opening and closing the hood on the BMW i8. So our next step, we want to make sure we don't place our feet on any pedals. So we just want to turn it on. And then we should still see the yellow i8 back there saying we need service. We're going to press and hold the trip reset for 10 seconds. And now we're prompted brake fluid reset possible. So we're going to press and hold for 3. It says reset, question mark, press and hold for 3. Reset in progress. Now it turned green, and we are good to go. So now we should be able to verify it by hitting our vehicle status and coming down to service required, and there's no longer any service required. That was a fairly easy job. Not knowing what I was getting into before I started, I was a little unnerved. I wasn't sure exactly how the process would go because I've never used a bleeder like this before. Typically I have somebody sit in the driver's seat, pump up the brake, and I release the screw, the fluid comes out and I tighten it up and they have to pump it up again, but not with this. This is a really cool system. In the description below will be links to every product that I used, and I highly recommend them. They all work very well. I'll also have the exact tools you need and the torque measurements in order to complete this job. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment box below. If you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications, as I'll be posting more BMW i8 content on this channel. Thanks for watching and happy motoring!